As I was reading over this very familiar story, it struck me as at first as an oddity. The man born blind did not ask for help. He was minding his own business, and all of a sudden this guy, makes a mud spout, and rubs it on his eyes and tells him to go wash. And it made me wonder, I think in the Synoptic Gospels, most of the time, faith precedes God's great actions, his miracles. God does something, or the people need to have faith, and then Jesus acts. When he was back in Nazareth, his hometown, it said in the scripture that Jesus could do nothing there because of their lack of faith. So faith was kind of a prerequisite for Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But for John, no, it's not a prerequisite. And here we have an example of this. This man did not even ask to be healed, and yet Jesus healed him. And it makes me think that we need to recognize that our process of conversion always starts with Jesus, okay? Always starts with God. And God is eager and anxious to reach out to each one of us and enliven us as best God can, to arouse us, to stir us up, to want to draw closer to this God. The restlessness we talked about last week with the thirst with the woman at the well. It's that same kind of thing is going on. God is always reaching out for us. And if we can, we need be attentive to our lives, attentive to the things that are going on each and every day. One of the great things that St. Ignatius always taught the Jesuits is to find God in all things, and not just a thing like this, but in the events of your life, in the people of your life, and to recognize, on reflection, how God is present there. And you don't have to first believe, because God will move you to belief by what you see. Now, for the story itself, you can't help, I don't think, but how many here know or read Plato's Republic? Anybody? A few. Plato's Republic has a wonderful story of the cave. And according to Plato, all humanity was chained in this deep hole, this deep cave. And all of their reality was the perception of these silhouettes on the wall. These moving silhouettes, it was all that they knew of reality. And that's what they claimed to be real, okay? Then one day, one man escaped. Somehow his chains broke. And he crawled out, and he crawled up the side, and he maneuvered his way up to where this light was. And he pulls himself through and makes this incredible discovery. And he can't wait to go back down. He can't wait to tell the other people, this is what is really real. You ought to see what's out there. There is so much more you cannot imagine what is there. And the people looked at him and said, no, that's not true. They wouldn't listen to his experience. His experience made no difference. This is what is true. These moving images, this is where we find our truth. And they ridiculed him. And they wanted to throw him out because they could not let go of the truth that they had to listen to another truth that might contradict it. And of course, this is the man born blind. The people in power, the people themselves even, they at first didn't think this was possible. Are you really the same man? And again, as I said, the man did not ask for anything. He never even acknowledged that Jesus was someone he recognized. So that when he did go to wash in the pool, and when he returned with vision, people asked him, well, who cured you? And all he knew was that man. And again, that might be the way we begin to believe. It's very vague. We don't know who this is that's acting in our lives. That man. Well, then, of course, the powers that be, they grabbed a hold of him, they pulled him in, and they demanded to know what had happened. And he told them that he spat, he made mud, he put it in my eyes. I went to wash, I came back and I could see. And they said, "Who is this man?" He said, "I don't know." So they went out and they said they were going to find out if he really was blind. So they questioned his parents. And his parents didn't want to get mixed up in this because they knew that if they disappointed the priests and these powerful officials, they could be punished. So they reverted back to their son. They said, "Ask him, he's of age." And so they did again. And I think he's so funny because he goes right after him. He says, "I've told you once before, this man came, he must be," and they said, "Who was he?" "He must be a prophet." So he's moved from seeing him as a man to see him as a prophet. And then he moves from that. Now, after they kick him out, he's wandering around. And again, he doesn't go looking for Jesus. Jesus finds him. Jesus finds him and says, "I hear you got kicked out of the synagogue." "Well, yeah." And he says, "Well," and he starts to talk to him about who Jesus really is. And he said, "Do you believe?" He says, "Yes, sir, I do believe." And he bowed down, knelt down, and adored Jesus. He moved from seeing him, not knowing him, to seeing him as a man, to seeing him as a prophet, to now seeing him as the Son of God. And I think that's kind of the process that we all have to go through. And we begin, oftentimes, we come here to Truman, you have faith, and something happens, maybe just growing, to getting different educational things happen, different ideas come, different relationships develop, and all of a sudden you feel like maybe I'm losing my religion. But just stop and think about it. God will reveal himself to you if you just examine your experiences. Remember how God has touched you. And you don't have to have any faith. God will take care of that. He will teach you to pray. He said, "I will send my Spirit to lift your prayers to the Father." I will take care of that. I mean, we get so scared sometimes that we have lost faith, and God never does. And so if you have those moments in time where you feel, I've lost something I had, stay with it. Remember. Remember how God has touched you. Remember how God, through other people, has made himself present to you. That's why I wanted you to remember as we began this, that you're part of something bigger than yourself. And not just those around you, not just your friends. But throughout this world, from the time immemorial until now, you are part of something wonderful. Lay claim to it. You don't have to believe it, just claim it. This is mine. Well, what is it? I don't know. But if I hold on to it long enough, he will reveal himself, and I will bow my head and worship him.